Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. My name again is Jeffrey Davis. I'm the host of Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm also CEO of Mage LLC, a management consulting firm working with leadership of private and family businesses, nonprofits in transition. Our next guest, our weekly guest, is Mark Furman, director and shareholder of the firm Tarlow, Breed, Hart Rodgers, for our segment Entrepreneurship and the Law. Welcome back, Mark.
Hi, Jeffrey. Very
Hello.
nice to see you.
Yep. Nice time of year.
It certainly is. You may have heard that in the news there's a trial going on in New York that involves former President Trump. And, I just wish it was folks could watch it. It's, we're able to watch the O.J. Simpson trial. People of a certain age may remember the Watergate hearings that were broadcast. And, it's an interesting view of the legal system with all of its aspects. There seems to be new ground being broken every day in the trial. First, the whole idea of having a felony trial against a former president of the United States is unprecedented. And then you have the central players in the case, the most significant witness for the prosecution, perhaps being Michael Cohen, who comes to the case with all this baggage that has come out during the trial. And the case is going to wind down very soon, and the case is going to go to a jury, and we're going to see what those folks have to say. But I wanted to point out a couple things. One, this is a criminal case, which means the burden of proof is on the prosecution to prove all the elements of what former President Trump is charged with beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a very high standard. And I'll contrast that with a typical civil case where the burden of proof is on the plaintiff to prove the case by a preponderance of the evidence, which let's just say is a smidgen over 50%. So it's a pretty high burden that the prosecution has. And, they come to the case with, Stormy Daniels, Michael Cohen, key witnesses in the case. There are a lot of documents in the case. I like to say documents can be pretty objective as evidence. You don't have to deal with people's different memories of events. And another thing about a trial is there's always surprises. No matter how well prepared the lawyers are, there are always surprises. And, what came out on cross-examination of Michael Cohen, a couple of the things that were revealed, including that some of the money that he received from the Trump organization was not used for its intended purpose. Only a portion of it was. And then this testimony on cross that in this relatively short call, minute 36 seconds, I believe it was, that one of the subject matters was that Mr. Cohen was receiving some kind of harassing texts or from a 14-year-old, and both those things I think weaken the prosecution's case. But the documents are the documents. And, just yesterday we had something I have never seen in my career, which was the clearing of the courtroom based upon events that occurred with the witness that was put on by the defense after the prosecution rested to impeach Michael Cohen's credibility. And there were apparently, from the reports I've read, questions asked, objections raised, objections sustained by the judge, and then comments or eye rolls or other things done by the witness that Mr. Costello, that got the judge quite angry to the point of having the jury leave the courtroom, the judge admonishing Mr. Costello, and it ultimately led to the judge clearing the courtroom, and just so that all reporters in the courtroom had to leave, and then further admonishment of Mr. Costello by the judge, including threat of contempt. So, these are not typical things that happen in trials, but there are always surprises during a trial. And the question in my mind is, well, what are the jurors thinking? A lot of this conversation occurred outside the presence of the jury, but while they were in the courtroom, the events that occurred before the jury was excused were in the presence of the jury. Juries watch everything. They watch the witnesses, they watch the judge, they watch the lawyers, they watch the defendant, they watch the plaintiffs in a civil case. They watch everything. And the question I have is, what's the impact of all of this on the jury? And we'll know in a week or so, because it sounds like the judge expects that the jury's going to get the case right after Memorial Day weekend. So it'll be interesting to see. And I just wish that, the American people could see the actual trial instead of hearing about it. Now, there are transcripts obtained, and I know on some of the shows they've been reading certain questions and answers, and the exchange between the judge and Mr. Costello was not off the record. It was outside of the hearing of the jury, and some of it outside the hearing of reporters, but the actual transcript contained everything that was said. So that's good. It's just the being in the courtroom, or as close to being in the courtroom as one can be. You really get a feel for what's going on more than you do just from reading a transcript.
Two things. It's it's important, and I guess this is what we're seeing, that you have a strong and smart judge who knows how to set rules for communication. And it seems like this judge is really trying to control his courtroom from the beginning, and that's good, and not go too far. The other one is the jury, and the judge will be giving them parameters of what they can consider and can't consider. And I guess that's going to be very important, especially to people like you that are courtroom watchers, especially, or experts. And that's going to be key too, what he will allow them to think. But once a judge gives parameters and it's in a person's head, how can you control that? Can you?
Well, when a judge says particular answer is stricken and tells the jury to disregard, you know, that's fine, but there's an element that the genie's out of the bottle already, and it's hard to put it back. But what will happen is the judge will instruct the jury on the law to apply. This jury is interesting because there are lawyers on the jury. There's a couple of lawyers on the jury. And so the instruction of what the law is, that's what lawyers are trained to do, and what they do in practice. So this is not going to be a case where the jury, they have a lot of questions about the instructions, I don't think. There may be a question or two that comes up, but it'd be, from all reports, the jury has been extremely attentive, and everyone who's on that jury probably had an opportunity to avoid being on the jury. And it being such a historical case, a high profile case, high media coverage in the case, there are people in the courtroom that probably jurors have seen on TV, and political figures have been showing up from time to time
In red ties.
to support the defendant, and the jury may well be aware of who some of those people are because they're on TV from time to time, and their photos are in newspapers and all of that. So it's certainly an unusual case. I think it's of the cases pending, it's the case that probably has the least significance to the country. I mean, it does in terms of the political implications, and it's a felony charge, but I think one of the questions that people have asked is, of the various cases that are pending, this is a document case about the claim of the falsifying business records to relating to the election, which is different than the case involving January 6th and the run-up to January 6th. So it's hard to get away from the politics of the case, and you see the political allies of the former president in the courtroom. One of the criticisms of the case is the district attorney ran for office, and this was part of his platform, holding former President Trump accountable. So it's not a federal case. It's a district attorney has brought the case. President Biden didn't bring the case. It's a state court case, not a federal court case. But I think if there's a defendant's verdict, there's already a lot of second guessing of whether this is the case that should have been brought amidst all of the other cases that were investigated and that led to federal indictments and the Georgia State Court indictment.
Well, either way, whatever the decision is, it won't be the end of the story, because I'm sure both political parties are lining up to react either way that this decision goes. And it could be, again, this could be the calmest time before a future storm that this could create, because it's not, in a lot of people's minds, a substantial court case. So it'll be very interesting. Mark, we appreciate you, following this as an attorney. We love talking to you every week, and that we expect you to continue to do that. If someone's looking for you and your firm, how do they find you?
Best way to reach me is by email, Furman, Furman, at TBHR-LAW.com.
Great. I want to remind everybody again, Mark Furman will be back next week on Radio Entrepreneurs.